I was 74. I'd worked my whole life. Started with nothing. Raised 2 daughters. Paid off a house. Loved one woman for 41 years. I never thought it would end like this. That cold hospital room still lives in my memory. Too white. Too quiet. I could hear the tick of the clock like a hammer. I was staring at the door, waiting for her face to appear. Every second that passed was a question without an answer. Carol had said she'd be there when I woke up, but the chair beside my bed was empty. No coat. No purse. No sign of her perfume in the air. Just a silence that felt like a scream. Hey, family. Before we dive into today's story, if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and comment below where you're watching from. And please watch the story till the very end. The nurse looked at me like she felt sorry for me. She didn't have to say it. I could see it in her eyes. Pity. The kind that cuts deeper than words. She said she wouldn't be coming back. That sentence shattered something inside me. I remember touching my chest. My heart didn't feel right. Not from the stroke. From the betrayal she left me. While I was unconscious, she took everything. My name. My savings. My home. I kept thinking. She'd walk through the door the next day. Or the day after that. But she didn't come back that day or the next, and I realized I'd spent my whole life protecting everyone but myself. What Carol didn't know. What nobody knew. Was that? I still had fight in me, the kind of fight that doesn't scream. It waits. It rebuilds, and then it rises. My name is Frank Delaney. I'm 74 years old, or at least, I was when my life fell apart. If you met me on the street, you might think I'm just another old man in a windbreaker. Quiet. Polite. A little stiff in the knees. You'd have no reason to look twice. And that's fine. I never needed attention. All I ever wanted was a simple life. A home. A family. Some peace. I didn't get the peace part until much later. I grew up in Ohio. One of 6 kids. My father worked the railroad until his hands turned to stone. My mother cleaned houses and carried sadness in her eyes that I didn't understand until I was much older. We didn't have much. I wore my older brother's shoes. Ate powdered milk. We didn't complain. We were grateful. At 18, I joined the Navy. I needed a way out. I needed discipline. Maybe even pride. I got both. For years in, I met Carol. Flashback. She was standing in front of a hospital vending machine, arguing with it. The machine had taken her last dollar. I guess even machines don't respect nurses, she muttered. I walked over, slid in a coin, and punched the button. Her candy dropped. She looked up at me, surprised. I smiled. Some of us still do. That was the beginning. Carol was smart. Driven. The kind of woman who could walk into a room and own it without saying a word. Her laugh filled kitchens. Her hugs smelled like lavender and cold cream. I loved her with everything I had. We got married 2 years later. She finished nursing school. I found work as an electrical technician, then moved up over the years. We bought a modest house with cracked tile and a garden. That only bloomed in July. But it was ours, and then we had Jenny. She was our firstborn. Quiet like me. Sweet. Loved the rain and building forts out of couch cushions. 2 years later came Marissa. Firecracker. Loud. Always asking why. Always running. I used to call her my shadow storm. Those years were good. No, they were beautiful. We didn't have big vacations. We didn't wear expensive watches. But we had Sunday mornings, pancake batter on the stove, music in the background, and the warmth of 4 hearts under one roof Life has a way of drifting. You blink, and 10 years vanish. One day, you're young and holding a baby in the middle of the night, and the next you're watching her walk down the aisle. But not every chapter has a happy ending. Jenny passed away at 34, pancreatic cancer. Fast. Unfair. Cruel. I still remember the hospital room. Flashback. She smiled at me, barely able to lift her head. "Dad," she whispered, "take care of Mom, okay?" I nodded. Tried to smile back. Then she closed her eyes. I never saw her again. Carol changed after that. Something in her died along with Jenny. She stopped laughing, stopped baking, stopped talking much at all. Grief does strange things to people. I thought we'd mourn together, but it felt like she built a wall and locked herself inside it. I gave her space. I figured that's what love does over time, that space turned into distance, and distance turned into silence. We still shared a home, still had dinners, still watched TV on the same couch. But it felt more like roommates than husband and wife. Marissa, our second daughter, moved away. Arizona. We barely spoke. She didn't come home for Christmas anymore, and me? I kept working. I kept fixing things around the house. Repainting the fence. Patching the roof. Fixing broken toasters even if we didn't need them. A tea was the only way I knew how to keep myself from falling apart. Then the little health issues started. At first, it was just dizziness. Then fatigue. Some numbness in my fingers. I brushed it off. I'm not the type to run to doctors. Carol told me to get checked. So I did. A minor heart arrhythmia, they said. Some blood pressure issues. Nothing life-threatening, the doctor assured me. But take it easy. I tried, but there's no manual for aging. No way to know what's coming. A few months later, I blacked out in the hallway. I woke up to Carol on the phone, calling 911. I remember looking up at her face. She didn't look scared. She looked tired, distant, like she'd already left the room in her heart. Still, I believed she cared. I believed she'd be there, because that's what love is, right? Through sickness and health. That's what we promised. So I handed her everything: my trust, my accounts, the house title, even the power of attorney. Not because I was foolish, because I loved her. I wanted her to feel safe if something ever happened to me. She said it made her feel more secure. Looking back now, I see how blind I was. I didn't notice the small signs, the late-night calls she took in the bathroom, the extra bank statements that never showed up anymore, the way she didn't hold my hand in public like she used to. I chalked it all up to grief, to age, to distance. But now I know. She was preparing her exit. She was building a new life while I was lying in bed beside her, hoping for one more chance to feel close again. Flashback. I was in the attic one afternoon, going through old boxes, found Jenny's baby shoes. Soft leather. A faded pink bow on top. She only wore them twice. I sat down right there on the dusty floor and held them in my hands like they were made of glass, and I wept, the kind of cry that shakes your ribs, the kind you don't want anyone to hear. Carol never came looking for me that day. I thought I was being strong. I thought I was being loyal, but really, I was disappearing, piece by piece. I trusted her with everything I was, and she left me with nothing but a hospital bed. And a second chance I never saw coming. It didn't happen all at once. No. Big fight. No harsh words, just small things. Like slow rust on a pipe you thought was solid. Carol stopped sitting with me at breakfast for over 30 years. We had a routine. I'd wake first, put on the coffee, and she'd shuffle in, still wearing her robe. We'd sit at the table, her reading the paper, me just watching the day begin. Then one morning, she didn't come in. I poured her coffee anyway. 10 minutes passed. 20. I brought the cup to her. She was on the phone, turned away, whispering. I didn't ask who it was. I just left the cup on her nightstand. That became our new normal. Cold breakfasts. Quiet dinners. Separate rooms. She said she had trouble sleeping. Said my breathing was too loud. I believed her, because that's what you do when you love someone, right? You give them the benefit of the doubt. You hold the door open even when they stop walking through it. I still remember the first time I noticed the envelopes. One afternoon, I went to get the mail while Carol was out. Nothing unusual, some junk flyers, a charity letter, and 2 bank envelopes, different banks. Not the one we used. I almost tossed them, thinking they were spam. But my name was on one of them. Sort of. It said, Franklin D. Not how I usually sign anything, but it was mine, inside. A balance transfer form. With my account numbers. I brought it to her when she got home. She glanced at it, laughed lightly, and said, "Oh, that I'm just consolidating things. The bank messed up the names. I've got it handled." I nodded. Because why wouldn't I? I trusted her with everything. Then she stopped calling me honey. It's a small word. 1 syllable. But when it disappears, the silence behind it feels like an echo in a church. She just called me Frank now. Or sometimes didn't. Address me at all. It stung in ways I didn't want to admit. One afternoon, I was at the community center. A friend from my veterans group, Harold, sat beside me during a game of dominoes. He leaned in, voice low. "Hey, you and Carol doing okay?" I looked up. "Yeah." "Why?" He scratched his neck like he regretted asking. "I saw her last week with some guy at the diner on 5th. Holding hands." My stomach twisted. "You sure?" "Could be nothing," he said quickly. "Just thought you should know." I laughed it off. Carol doesn't even like diners, but I couldn't sleep that night. The image stuck with me. Her smile. Someone else's hand. No, I told myself. No way. She's just grieving in her own way. People change after loss. She needs space. That's all. I held on to that thought like a rope, even when she started going out more. Always with vague excuses, even when she changed her email password. After using the same one for 20 years, even when I found a card in her purse from a man named Thomas, it said, "Next time, let's go away for longer. You make me feel alive again." No last name. Just that sentence. I stared at it for 10 minutes. Then I put it back because I didn't want it to be true. Flashback. I remembered the day I surprised her with our anniversary dinner, candlelight. Her favorite red wine. A new necklace I'd saved. For months to buy. She smiled so wide that night. I feel lucky. She'd said, "So did I." What happened to that smile? Then came the big ask. She brought it up during dinner, just as I was spooning out mashed potatoes. "Frank," she said, "can we talk about something serious?" I looked up. Of course. She laid out a few documents. A power of attorney form. Some banking updates. A healthcare directive, if something happens to you again. "I just want to be prepared," she said. "It's hard for me to manage all this stuff when it's split up." I blinked. "We already have wills. This is just easier. Cleaner, safer." She smiled. But it didn't reach her eyes. Still, I signed, because I believed she had my best interest at heart, because she had taken care of me after my first episode. held my hand in the ambulance, brushed my forehead in the air because I loved her more than I loved myself, and I didn't know. I didn't know I was handing her the key to everything I'd built. Days passed. Then weeks. My bank app stopped working. She said they updated their system. Don't worry, I've got it under control. I tried to check the balance once. She got irritated. Do you not trust me now? I backed off. Of course I do, but inside, a quiet fear started growing. Like a draft coming in under a locked door. One night, I sat in the living room, looking at the wall. The pictures told a different story. One of us at the beach with Jenny on my shoulders. One of Carol holding Marissa as a baby. One of our wedding. Black and white, her veil caught in the breeze. And then, nothing recent. No new photos, because the story had stopped moving. At least, for me, internal monologue. Maybe I wasn't enough anymore. Maybe I'd grown old in her eyes. Maybe the man she needed now wasn't the one who fixed wires and read the paper in silence. I wanted to ask her if she still loved me, but I was scared of the answer. So I said nothing. One morning, she didn't come home. Said she went to see her cousin overnight. I didn't know she had a cousin nearby. I waited at the window all morning, my coffee going cold. When she walked in, she didn't say hello. Just dropped her bag and went to the shower. Her purse was half open. I saw hotel stationery peeking out. My heart dropped, but I looked away because sometimes it's easier to lie to yourself than face the truth. The next doctor's appointment came fast. They found something minor, they said, but they wanted to keep me overnight for tests. Carol drove me. Quietly. No music in the car. I asked her to stay the night at the hospital. She kissed my cheek and said, "Of course, honey, that was the last time she called me that." When I woke up, she was gone, and so was everything I thought was mine. I remember the morning it happened. I was in the kitchen, reaching for a glass of water. My hand trembled, and the glass slipped, shattering on the floor. Then a sharp pain shot through my left arm, and the world tilted. "Carol," I managed to call out. My voice slurred. She appeared in the doorway, eyes wide. "Frank, what's wrong?" I can't feel my arm," I stammered. She rushed to the phone, dialing 911. The hospital. Everything moved quickly. Doctors, nurses, machines beeping. They said it was a mild stroke. Carol stood by my side, holding my hand. "I'm right here," she whispered. "Everything will be okay." They prepped me for surgery. As they wheeled me away, she leaned in. "I'll be right here when you wake up." But when I opened my eyes, she was gone. The room was empty, sterile. The clock on the wall ticked loudly. I waited. Minutes turned into hours. No Carol, a nurse, entered. Her expression hesitant. "Mr. Delaney, we need to discuss your discharge." "Discharge? Already?" "Yes. There's an issue with your insurance. It appears your coverage has lapsed." "That can't be. My wife handles all that." She hesitated. "Also your home." "It's been sold." I stared at her, disbelief washing over me. "What do you mean, sold?" "Records show the property was sold 3 weeks ago." I felt the room spin. My bank accounts emptied. Transferred to another account. I couldn't breathe. I tried calling Carol. No answer. I called Marissa. Straight to voicemail. I was alone, abandoned. Tears streamed down my face as I lay in the hospital bed, unable to move. I wasn't just abandoned, I whispered. I was erased. Days passed. One evening, a nurse named Denise came in. She was older, with kind eyes. "You don't deserve this," she said softly. She handed me a phone charger and a piece of paper. "Here's a number for legal aid. They can help." I clutched the paper, hope flickering. After Denise handed me the piece of paper with the legal aid number, I stared at it for a long time. The numbers blurred through my tears, but I knew I had to do something. I called the number, Legal Services Corporation. How can we assist you? A calm voice answered. I explained my situation. The woman on the other end listened patiently. We can connect you with a pro bono elder rights attorney in your area, she said. A few days later, I met with Mr. Thompson, a kind-eyed attorney who specialized in elder law. Frank, what happened to you is not just heartbreaking, it's illegal. He said. He helped me file for fraud and reclaim part of my pension. We proved that I was not of sound mind when I signed certain papers, especially after the stroke. Meanwhile, I had nowhere to go. Denise mentioned the VA's programs for homeless veterans. I contacted them and was placed in temporary housing through the grant and per diem program. It wasn't much, but it was a roof over my head. I remembered an old Navy buddy, Mike. We hadn't spoken in years, but I reached out. Frank, it's been ages, he exclaimed. I told him everything. Come work with me, he offered. I run a small security firm. We need someone at the desk. It was part-time, but it gave me purpose. One day, while researching, I discovered that the man Carol left me for owned a small healthcare management firm. I felt a surge of anger, but I knew I had to stay calm. With Mr. Thompson's help, I filed a lawsuit against him for conspiracy and coercion. During mediation, I faced him. You took my money, my wife, my home, I said quietly. But I still have something you'll never have, a name people respect. The room fell silent. The settlement wasn't large, but it was enough, just enough to start over. The court ruled in my favor. The man who took everything from me was fined for his shady healthcare practices. It wasn't about the money. It was about justice. I took the settlement and invested it carefully. No risks. Just steady growth. Denise, the nurse who had shown me kindness when I had nothing, became a close friend. We talked often about the plight of seniors who were abandoned. Just like I had been. One day, over coffee, I shared an idea. What if we started a place for seniors who've been left behind? A rehab center, maybe. A place where they can heal physically and emotionally. Her eyes lit up. I love that idea, Frank. We co-founded a small nonprofit rehab care center for abandoned seniors. It started small, but with hard work and dedication, it grew. We partnered with a local hospital system. 3 years later, I found myself sitting at a board table as part owner of a senior care rehab wing in that same hospital. I remembered the day I walked back into the hospital lobby where I had once been abandoned. This time, I wore a clean suit. My hands were steady. My heart was full. I didn't have to do anything. Life took care of it. Carol's new relationship didn't last. The man she left me for, Mark, the smooth-talking financial advisor, drained her savings and disappeared. Just like that, she had sold our home, moved in with him, and trusted him with everything. Just like I had trusted her. Now she lives in a one-bedroom apartment on the edge of town. No car, no visitors, no savings. One day, a letter came in the mail. My name written in her familiar handwriting. It was short. Frank, I don't expect forgiveness, but I'm sorry. I made a terrible mistake. I hope you're okay, Carol. I didn't write back, not because I was angry, but because I didn't have anything left to say. She'd already said goodbye in that hospital room. That was her moment. She chose, and I had chosen peace. It was a quiet Tuesday when Marissa showed up at the rehab center. I recognized her right away, though it had been years. She looked older, tired. But her eyes still had that soft blue glow from when she was a little girl holding my hand at the beach. She stood in the hallway for a minute before stepping into my office. "Dad," she whispered. I stood for a second. I didn't know if I could speak. My heart thudded in my chest. I felt like I was 40 again, watching her take her first steps. "I'm sorry," she said. I didn't know the truth. "Mom said you abandoned her." I believed her. I should have asked. I should have come to see you. Tears welled in her eyes. So did mine. I walked over and pulled her into a hug. We stayed like that for a long time. Some things don't need words. We took things slow after that, lunches now and then. She met some of the staff. She even donated to the nonprofit on her birthday. Sometimes I'd see her standing in the garden outside the rehab wing, watching the wind move through the trees. I think she was mourning more than just the past. Maybe her own regrets. Maybe her sister Jenny. Maybe just time itself. But I never pressed her. Forgiveness, like healing, has its own pace. And Denise? She became more than a nurse. More than a friend. She helped me rebuild something I thought I'd lost trust. I made her co-director of our nonprofit. Her name now sits on the front entrance, right beside mine. She never asks for praise. She just shows up early, stays late, and smiles at every single resident like their family. Sometimes, when we sit in the break room sipping weak coffee, she'll pat my hand and say, "You did good, Frank," and every time she says it, I feel something in my chest loosen, like the world might just be okay after all. It was late afternoon, the kind of golden hour that makes everything look a little softer, a little kinder. The garden outside the hospital wing smelled like lavender and freshly cut grass. I sat on the same wooden bench I always did, the one tucked under the old oak tree. There were no machines around me. No wires, no hospital bed, just the breeze, the sound of wind chimes, and the low hum of life carrying on. 3 years ago, I left this hospital with nothing but a plastic bag and a heart full of cracks. Now I sit here in a clean suit, steady hands, a warm cup of tea in one, and peace in the other. I co-own the wing behind me. Funny how life turns. I think a lot about trust, how I gave it so freely, how I handed over the keys to everything I had built, my money, my name, my life. But I don't regret loving Carol. I don't regret giving her everything I had. That love was real. Even if she left, sometimes people walk away when you need them most, but sometimes that's how you find who you are meant to become. I had to lose everything, my house, my health, my pride, just to see the part of me that was still standing, still fighting. That man sitting alone in the hospital bed. He didn't die. He just got quiet, listened, and waited, and then he rose, not in rage, not in revenge, but in calm, steady rebuilding. I found purpose in helping others who were left behind too, men and women forgotten by the very people they trusted. Folks like me. Now they walk our halls with dignity. They eat 3 meals a day and hear their names called with respect. That's something money can't buy. That's something I'll carry till the end. A nurse's voice broke the silence behind me. A wheelchair rolled softly over the stone path. An older man, thin, gray, nervous, was being brought outside for some sun. He looked like I used to. Lost. Hollow-eyed. Scared. As he passed, I stood and walked toward him. He flinched a little when I reached out, but I only placed a hand gently on his shoulder. "You're not alone here," I said quietly. "Not anymore." He looked up at me, eyes glassy, and I smiled, not because everything had gone the way I planned, but because, in a world where people leave, I stayed, and I became someone I could be proud of. I lost everything, and I found myself.